to determine what it is that will make you happy living in your house.
Wow, this hit with real.
That is when I knew that this was the Lord.
That's a good question.
I figure if I do it, it'll force me to learn it.
Well, that's why I know him.
The Scene with Sharon Kroll, Behind the Book. Featuring today's book.
So today on the show, we have a California certified interior designer with over 3 decades of experience as an interior designer and a teacher of interior design. Her work, not only in the residential, but also the commercial, has gotten her published in over 3 international design magazines. And today she's on the show to talk about her book entitled Timeless Design Beyond Decorating Trends. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sharon Kroll. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. But I have 5 decades.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, correct me for that dreadful mistake. Over 5 decades. My goodness. Wow. And you brought some of the magazines, right, that I just mentioned. Can you show the audience that
Sure.
magazine?
This is let's see if I get back farther. Can you see the whole thing?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Wow.
This is a house I did in England it was over a period of time, but primarily in the 80s. And it made the cover of this magazine.
Wow. In England, so it seems like your work has really brought you overseas. Has that been the only time that you've gotten your work abroad, or
Yeah, that was the only one out of the country, but I've done other projects in various states remotely for the most part.
Yeah.
This client lived in California, and I did her house here, but she was English and had planned on moving back, and she bought this property and flew me over to do the house.
Wow. Which actually is something great, because I actually wanted to talk about your career first and foremost, because obviously without the career, there wouldn't be a book in the first place, right? So
Right.
spanning a career of more than 5 decades, as you've mentioned, I'm just very curious, and let's give the audience a little bit more perspective. What actually made you decide to choose this career path? Because this career path is actually one that's not that easy, right? It's always changing and all this. So what made you choose interior design, Sharon?
Well, back then I had no idea of what the difficulties were. I just ran head on into it. And it really started when I was a child, because just for the fun of it, I would draw floor plans, not to scale. I had a little book that I did, drew room interiors. On one, I took a gum wrapper, the silver lining inside a stick of gum, and pasted it on the wall for a mirror. And I collected rooms that I liked out of decorating magazines and I had a scrapbook. I kept all that in. So I was always interested in it. And then when I went to the University of California at Irvine, I majored in art. They didn't have an interior design major at the time. I'm still not sure if they do, but I did take additional classes afterwards that they held there in interior design. It's all basically the same design principles. You're just applying it to a painting or a sculpture or a photograph, a room interior. It's all the same design principles, just different places you use it. So I got a secondary teaching credential, and at the time, which was like the mid 70s, there were more teachers than there were positions. So I was doing a lot of substituting. Yeah, it's different now. And a friend of mine's husband was teaching adult ed in Huntington Beach, which is probably a city people all over the world have heard of because of the surfing. And they needed an interior design teacher for their adult education program. And my friend knew I was interested in it. I hadn't done anything yet. And she called me, and they were so desperate. I went in thinking about it, it's kind of funny. I interviewed for the job, which was going to start the following week. That's how desperate they were. So they hired me. And I was like a week ahead of the class doing lesson plans. I'd already got my teaching credentials, so I knew how to put a class together. And it just went on from there. I ended up teaching in North Orange County Community College District in their adult ed programs for years, and various city programs. And um, while that was going on, then I would have students that would come to me and hire me as a designer. That's how I really got started, because I was teaching it, and somebody, they were learning, but not sure of what they were doing themselves, so they would hire me to do it. And then it just went from there. And my students over the years had said, you need to write a book. They
Wow.
liked the way I was teaching and making it understandable and as simple as possible. So that's why I eventually ended up writing a book.
Wow, that's actually really cool, Sharon, because people actually don't start teaching until after they actually have the experience, right, of doing the craft.
Right.
So it's pretty topsy turvy with you in your career, but it worked out just more,
Hmm.
more than fine, actually. And I
I
wanna,
never,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
never thought I couldn't do it.
I think that's the beauty with you too, right? Because like you just mentioned, you actually just dove right into it. You didn't even have a second guess because this was something you were always interested in, right? It wasn't
Yes.
something that had to be forced. And I want to
Right.
touch up on a little bit of what you said earlier. You said you were always interested in this. Was there anything else besides interior design?
That's a good question. Um, I I like I liked the idea of traveling, and when I was a kid, I used to um, send off for travel brochures to different places. So I thought, oh, maybe I should be a flight attendant. Back then, they were called airline stewardesses, but
Okay.
um, I thought that would be a good way to get around and have a job where I can touch down in various cities and see things, but obviously that never happened. I also considered being a forest ranger because I really like
Wow.
nature and animals. So,
Okay. That's I didn't expect that. But going back to your career as the designer, like I'm not sure if I told you this, but my dad was an architect when he was when he was alive, when he was still with us,
hmm
and he was also an interior designer. And one of the challenges he always faced was the fact that it's always evolving, right? Trends all come and go here and there.
hmm
So in your career, throughout your career, what would you say was the thing that actually made you adapt? Because not necessarily in a way that you took on the trends, but what made you adapt and made you stay relevant, so to speak, with your clients.
well, my number one thing is to interpret my clients' vision of what is going to make their house usable and comfortable and happy for them. So I didn't go along with trends just to be going along with a trend. If my client liked the trend, that's what I would do. So everything I've done looks different. I don't have a style. I
Okay.
interpret what my client wants using good design principles, and it doesn't matter what period, what trend, you still have to use those design principles. Like I tell people, what are you going to do? Redecorate Versailles? It's definitely out of date.
Yeah, yeah. So, how would you actually advise someone who wants to invest their hard-earned money into something that you feel would be out of trend within
hmm
probably the next year or two? How would you, as their interior designer, as their consultant, how would that situation be like?
Well, I would say something that's really trendy and dates itself easily that you will get tired of, don't buy it. Buy something
Right.
that you are comfortable with that's going to last you a long period of time. If you get tired of it in a few years and want to change, fine. But
Mm.
something that maybe can last at least some pieces your whole life. As an example, I just this year reupholstered all my furniture. So I didn't have to
Thank
get
goodness.
rid of anything, but the room looks like a totally different room.
Yeah. Wow. And I know you mentioned earlier the reason as to why you wrote the book in terms of why the idea came into your head. But I think what I'm trying to poke at right now is obviously you've had such a decorated career over 5 decades. That's a long time in any career in any field. That's a really long time. You've had probably dozens, if not hundreds, of clients here and there throughout the whole U.S. Some even in England, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think what I'm trying to ask is, if I were in that position, I think I'd just call it a day, right? But with you, you actually put pen to paper and actually took your students' advice. So, what made you decide that to put pen to paper to get a book out there? What was that switch?
Well, there's so much out there that just shows you a style and some pictures and has a few words about it, or it might go on with a lot of reiterating what they've said earlier in the article and not really instructing the student how, or the homeowner or whoever's reading it, how to do it. And I believe the simplest explanation is the easiest to follow and the easiest to learn from. So I took everything down to its basic explanation. This is the way I taught, and always had a visual example of everything I talked about. And I'd never seen a book on the market that was exactly like that. And I thought it was something that people could use. And that's why my students urged me to write a book, because they hadn't found anything like that either. In fact, I had one student tell me that she had taken a lot of classes, and mine was the first that was better than the written description in the catalog.
Wow, that how
That's
did
the
you
best
feel? You must have
compliment I
been.
ever got.
Yeah, I bet you must have been elated. That's huge, man. For a
And I
student to come
learned
up
a
to
long
you.
time ago, never assume anybody knows anything. A lot of instruction starts out from a point assuming somebody knows something. And
Right.
I never did. I took it to its basics. So if you don't know anything, you're going to understand what I'm saying.
Wow. That's pretty cool because, like you said, usually, because I agree with you there, because usually books in this area, this genre, this field, whatever, is usually like within just one stylistic point. Yeah, you're completely right. Never really about the broad spectrum of principles needed to actually make it your own space. So I actually agree with you there. But, I actually read a little bit about your book, and I want to touch up on this something that actually led me to lean back in my seat and think about, okay, Sharon is some sort of like a maniacal person for actually thinking of these little details. Because in the second chapter, you actually talk about and five design elements that actually go along with color. I know you know what I'm talking about: line,
Mm-hmm.
texture, balance, space, and form, right? And how these are such important design elements to basically make the space your own. And to me, I was thinking of, wow, I all I see whenever I go into a room is color, right? Color and probably size. And you have all these other five. How do these five elements play a role? Without giving away too much from the book, but just to elaborate a little bit.
Well, the whole thing comes down to balance. If a room is out of balance, it's not going to feel comfortable. It's not going to um, create the atmosphere a person wants. And for me, I can immediately see that. Some people will have look at their room and they'll go, "There's something wrong here, but I don't know what it is." Well, I can look at it and say it's out of balance. And you look at these different design elements, study what's going on in your room and say, "Oh, I'm mostly using straight line, but over here I have
Mm,
all this floral pattern, which is mostly curved, and it's out of balance with the straight line." That isn't to say you can't use both, but they have to be balanced in the room. So you have to look at each of these elements in what you're putting together or what you already have in your room so you know what's wrong with it and see if it's balanced. And I also talk about balance in the book as well.
right. As you're giving all these tips and everything, my producer slash girlfriend over here is nodding her head very heavily because it's like a her mind's being blown with everything that you're saying. Uh, you mentioned the balance between floral patterns, lines, and everything, but does something that here in Asia called feng shui, does it apply to your work over there? Has that always been a factor in everything that you've been practicing ever since, or tell me about it.
Well, I have a book on feng shui, but I haven't specifically used it. A lot of the problem is the architecture. It's the house is built in a way that is counter to feng shui. It's
Right.
like
Okay.
you don't walk in the entry and look straight through to another door going out the back. That's
Right.
bad.
Yeah.
Well, some houses are done that way, and you just have to work with it. You can't just say, "Oh, I can't do this." You have to buy another house.
That's so
So
true.
I have to work around what exists in the client's house.
Uh, wow. And and that's so true because I never really thought of it that way. You can't really edit a building, can you? So
Unless we're doing remodeling, and I've had a lot of projects with remodeling or building
okay.
houses, from the ground up. But um, most people, I'm just working with their existing house.
Right. Right. Now, obviously, your book focuses on timeless design, right? But
Hmm.
I want to do a little bit of timeless versus trendy. What has been the most challenging throughout your career, and if you were to think of it right now, which was going to be the most challenging, probably like client or project that you've tackled? Thinking of, as you've mentioned, remodeling and all these other things.
The most challenging is when the client likes something that isn't the current trend. That doesn't mean what they like is totally unavailable, but there's much less to choose from. The whatever is trending, you're going to find materials, furniture, whatever, in greater supply
Mhm.
than something that's off trend.
Right.
So that becomes difficult sometimes.
Mhm. And going back, as I've said, your book centers around the principle of timeless design, right?
Hmm.
What would you say to these people who actually see interior design as something like a challenge or something intimidating? And because there are some people, or not really some, but there are a lot of people who see interior design as something that only the wealthy can actually have done because they see it as something that's expensive. But your book actually proves that it's not, you know? So what would you say to these people with coming from the context of your book, just to give them a little bit of a sneak peek?
Well, sometimes something as simple as just rearranging your furniture will make your space look better. I had a friend that I helped and added some accessories, a little bit more color, but basically rearranged what he had. It was no big redo, and he couldn't believe it. He said, "Oh, the space looks so much bigger," and all I did was move furniture
Mhm.
and add a few accessories. So it doesn't have to be expensive. I will work with people's existing items, and
Really?
a lot of times they just don't know how to put them all together, and it looks like a whole
Mm.
new room. One of my clients told me, "You made all my old ugly things look good."
Wow.
And
Um,
again, it's
yeah,
just follow the design principles. And just because marketing is pushing a particular look doesn't mean it's the best thing for you.
right.
And marketing, that the trends go in about 8-year cycles. It's just a way of selling more stuff. And
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with it because a lot of those looks are great. But that doesn't mean you have to do it just because marketing wants to sell something. Do it if you like, but you can use your old stuff and really just get a whole different look just by rearranging, adding accessories, painting walls, an area rug. There's all kinds of ways to do it.
And that actually brings me to my next question because I'm very curious about something like this. Because here, I'm thinking of Asia right now, okay? Um, Obviously, because I ask you this because your book goes beyond the borders, right? It doesn't only apply to the US. And here in
Mm-hmm.
Asia, it's quite different because obviously we have people who move into to places, right? And these places are basically furnished, already furnished. So they don't need to buy stuff. But there are these people who decide to not even change a little thing. So from your experience, and you've mentioned a little bit already, but how important would you say is interior design in terms of making the space your own? How have you seen this impact people's lives before? And just from like you said, rearranging, how has this changed people's lives from your experience?
Well, it can make their rooms more functional so that they can have more activity in a particular room because they just changed the position of the furniture.
Hmm.
Everything has to be practical as well as beautiful. And some people are totally oblivious to all of this. They could have a recliner, a remote, and a TV and not notice anything else around them. They don't care. They don't need to do any interior design in their house. They don't even, it wouldn't be of any value to them because for however their brain works, it's
Hmm.
not important and they don't see it. And I have seen that. So those people don't need to do anything. It's somebody that walks in their house and go, oh, you know, there's something wrong here. It doesn't feel right. I need to do something, but I don't know what to do.
So for those types of people, you don't actually fight them anymore in terms of wanting to help them. You basically just leave them alone and let.
Well, they wouldn't come to me for help
Oh,
if
that's so true.
with that attitude. It might be a husband and wife, and the husband doesn't care. Whatever she wants to do, fine. It. I had one example of, well, he did appreciate the house,
Uh,
when it was done, but his wife showed him a couple of pieces of furniture, and he said, "I don't like either of them. Just pick the one you like."
right. My goodness. That typical us, typical guy, right? Leave everything design wise to the women because we basically don't know anything. You guys know
Well,
better.
not entirely true. One of my clients was a married couple, and they had a little daughter, and he took my design class. She
Oh wow.
didn't. And most of the contact was with him, and then they hired me. In fact, I did 3 houses for them and designed the house they live in now in Oregon. And when I came in, his wife told me, we have no taste. Just tell us what to do.
Wow, Mike.
They knew, they didn't know how to do it, but they knew they wanted something that felt good. And he could see the difference. He just didn't know how to do it.
Mhm.
Another thing I always told my clients is find pictures in decorating magazines of rooms you like. Cut it out and keep those. And you'll find there's something in common with all of them. If you look at that, you'll see what your style, it'll be easier to determine your style. And you like a lot of detail or you like it very simple, whatever it is. If they just look at it, I like that, and then analyze it later, it'll help them determine what direction to go.
Wow. That I can't really say much because your principles throughout the book are very self-explanatory. Like you said, you make them seem very basic, that anyone can understand it, that anyone can use them to actually apply to their own lives and their own spaces. So I guess I want to end the whole segment, the whole show with this question, and I want you to really think about this because this is your shot right now, okay? So, my last question to you, Sharon, if you had only one piece of advice to give to our viewers and our listeners right now, one piece of advice, and obviously in relation to your book, what would it be?
To determine what it is that will make you happy living in your house, what colors you like, what style you like, and don't let other people influence you that aren't living there. When it's a family, you can all have to decide on something, but just because you're seeing a lot of something in a magazine or in stores doesn't mean that's what you have to do. Do what makes you happy. That's the whole purpose of interior design, to make your environment comfortable for you personally.
Wow. Awesome. And please tell the people where they can get your book, Sharon. Where can they purchase a copy?
Well, on Amazon, it's available as a digital book or a paperback.
Awesome. And the link will be in the
And
description.
here,
And here. Where's here?
here's the book.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. That, to be fair, Sharon, it is a really, really beautiful looking book. I would say
And
so.
all the pictures in it are homes that I have designed and photographs I've taken,
Right.
with a few exceptions. I have a few client photos, but they're all my designs.
And I think, like I said, that's what really sets you apart because everything that is in the book is coming from experience. It's credible, right? And it's coming and it's backed with over 5 decades of experience. So you mentioned that they can pick up the book on Amazon, both digital and physical copy. Do you have a website that you want to
Mm-hmm.
share to the people? Maybe.
I am actually retired now, so I no longer have a website.
Okay.
I only work with old clients because I'm not going to drop anybody after all decades
Wow.
of working with people.
Right.
But I'm not available for hire anymore.
You put you hung it up now. Okay, I see.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, folks, that's a wrap on another episode of The Scene with Sean Uy. And we'd like to say thank you so much to our special guest, Sharon Kroll. Sharon, thank you so much for your time and for your insights
Well,
today.
thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for all this clap, clap, right? And yeah, for everyone or anyone who wants to pick up a copy of Sharon's book, please, the links are going to be in the description below. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and we'll see you on the next scene with Sean Uy. Thank you. Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.